problem with it.
No, the tour as it was laid out was cool. Like we got it to go, at least from my perspective. I mean, it was probably a little bit more old hat for you, but touring Laphroaig is pretty neat because it is right on the coast, and it's got some beautiful views there, no matter what the weather is because of it. And it's got its own floor malting, so we got to see that. We got to go right into the kiln where they dry the barley and malt the barley, and did everything else. Got into one of the warehouses to try two different single casks at the end, but both of us were internally and sometimes even externally cringing because of the stuff that the gentleman would say. And then to top it off, he was relatively misogynist, just to add icing onto the top of the cake there.
It really was the worst, just the worst experience for what is otherwise like such an incredible distillery and such a cool place to go visit, and such a cool island with like really warm, welcoming people. It was just, yeah, it was an insane contrast. So it is what it is, you know. But really was unfortunate. So we've got 7 whiskeys tonight. One of them is actually a bottle Kurt sold back to the store so that we could have 6 mature distillery bottled Laphroaigs, which was the goal all along. So glad it really worked out. And we're starting off with the Laphroaig Lore. If for no other reason than that this is the staple, the distillery's staple mature whiskey. It replaced the 18, which itself was replacing the 15 way back when. And, you know, this is a bottling that I have to be honest, I do not give a lot of time or attention to, rightly or not. I think partly because I'm like, you know, Kurt, a bit jaded about the fact that they took the ages away. I would have rather they called this what it is, a 14, a 16, a 17. Like own it, I guess is my perspective on it.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's the same thing where I've maybe tried it once or twice, but it's always been in passing and with not great expectations. I have seen a lot of things, positive things written online about it recently when I've been looking at reviews and different social media sites talking about bottles over it. There are a lot of people that have a lot of respect for the bottle, which at least is a good thing, and hopefully we're delving into a good bottle because of it.
Now, I don't know how much they actually disclose about this 5 cask types. So there it is, 48% marriage. So you've got what is it here? We've got quarter casks used in it, double matured stock finished in European oak hogsheads, heavily peated whiskey, matured in Laphroaig barrels, ex-Laphroaig barrels. So I guess you want to double down with some sherry matured casks as well. So a bit of a kind of confusing kitchen sink mashup there. Hopefully more mature, because I mean, obviously this has got a 200+ price tag in Alberta. I'm sure it's bizarrely cheaper in BC because Beam Suntory for some reason jacks up Alberta to make up for Ontario and BC prices or margins. The nose on it's pleasant enough. It's very fruity. It's like smoked jujubes. Like if you were to take jujubes and smoke them with tar, I get a little bit of that on the nose to kick things off.
It's yeah, it does have your typical like salt, brine, and iodine. The iodine stepped back a little bit, but it does have that sort of darker medicinal touch. But I get a lot of the fruit and even into some floral, almost Parma violet like notes, which Laphroaig probably next to Bowmore is the one that seems to lean into it the most.
It does show a little bit of that floral lavender character for sure. Harmony, what are you getting on the nose with the Lore?
Yeah, you said jujubes. I was thinking a little bit more like some sort of jam, apricot or orange, maybe even a blended jam, just like, again, like sweet jelly fruit notes. You get a little bit of spices in there, darker spices, which are really nice, little chocolate. And I do definitely agree. There's like floral note in here, but it's subtle for me, which is good because floral can really throw me off sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Marty, how about yourself? How are you finding the nose on this one?
Like it's not, it's not as medicinal as I think. Like I guess standard Laphroaig, like 10-year-old, is coming across a lot more medicinal than this is. But I think maybe it's just the extra kind of dark fruits in there are subduing that a bit.
Well, I think we should hope that it's not as medicinal as like
Yeah.
one of the younger ones, like the quarter cask or the 10-year-old. Well, let's go ahead and give it a taste.
That was early.
Quite rich. I mean, despite its age, there is definitely quite a cask prominence to it. Those sherry tones are coming in. It's very tarry, salty. Still has those almost medicinal jujubes now. Like they're still jujube fruits, but they're tarry and medicinal. They're getting into some Dettol notes on the palate here too, and lots of malt.
It's got this really nice chalkiness to it, I find, on the palate, and along with that, underneath all the dark fruit and the smoke and the peat and the medicinal notes, it's still got this sweet, like tapioca note for me, which is really interesting.
Tapioca, it's a cool one. Harmony?
Yeah, the palate is nice. It's nice and full, I think. But yeah, that chalky kind of dry mineral finish, lots of chocolate. I like it. It's cheeks are still full and juicy, but my tongue is like it's dry and chalky.
Yeah, there's nice juiciness to it here.
Yeah, a little. It is dry for me. It's like I'm thinking like a bit of cigarette smoke type on the palate. It's not. It's not like a pipe. Not a cigar tobacco kind of note. It's more like a cigarette tobacco.
Yeah. Almost like walking around the last few days.
Oh, Walter's worked up here. I might have to go deal with that in a minute. Just a second. Sorry.
Yeah, it's cool to look when you look at this too. This is the youngest. Well, we're assuming since it's no age statement, I'd be shocked if it's older than anything in the lineup. Maybe there is an older cast or two in there, though. Who knows? But this is the second lowest ABV that we have in the lineup tonight. Only one of the bottles is lower. Everything else is higher, which is pretty cool because the age is going up as we're going along too.
Yeah, it's nice. I appreciate that. You know, if they are using this as a replacement for 15 and 18-year-old whiskeys, at least they can do is like keep it unchill filtered and unaltered as much as they can to at least fill the gap, but make it approachable.
Yeah, I'm kind of digging it right now. It's got, I think the chalkiness and the minerality kind of cuts off the finish a little bit, but it's kind of like a quietly noisy dram, if that makes sense, where it kind of probably because of all the different casks that they used in it, it goes off in a few different directions where I seem to be getting different bits and pieces of it every time I take a sip.
That's cool.
Yeah. Right now, it seems to have like squeezed orange peel oil coming off on the nose for me.
Sorry, guys, I'm back. And I was also, Evan, I decided I would try to recover some photos from our trip.
Yeah.
And,
well, I've got some here that we can go to as well. So
that might be fast. That might be faster than mine because mine all apparently need to be downloaded. I don't even know where they are, but they're pulling them up. But I'm going to share this one for a moment because this is the famous seawall Laphroaig. My beard does not have as much gray in it then as it does now. That was a whole COVID ago and then some. But it was, yeah, I guess it looks like the weather was nice that day. You
yeah, it was.
Things like that. So
Yeah, it was a pretty nice weather day, I think, throughout the whole day, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and here, of course, is before we go on, sort of like probably the most iconic person from Laphroaig's history, which is Bessie Williamson, who's that's essentially the same picture that we had on the front there, but she is definitely celebrated at the distillery as well, which is cool.
Mhm. Yeah, no, great spot, great whiskey. Hopefully there's no photos of that guide here. That might be triggering. Now, did anyone try adding water to theirs just to see how it does?
I might do that just for kicks.
I've thrown a little bit in mine. It kind of becomes creamier, not quite as classic Laphroaig on the nose. It's sort of broken the bone of this malt by adding a drop of water to it. So I don't know that I would personally add water to it. In fact, after tasting it, I would say definitely don't add water to it. Just seems to kind of drown it out a little bit and diminish what's there. And Evan or Harmony, did either of you guys add a drop of water?
I did
No.
not add water because I liked the mouthfeel where it was, and I thought that every time I tried it, I was more pleased with it every time. So little time in the glass for me, it's really nice whiskey.
Yeah, I added a few drops. I don't think it really added anything to the experience. I think it's better without water. It does lose a little bit of that chalkiness that I was really digging there, and that underlying sort of tropical and tapioca note. And yeah, it drinks just nicely without.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Marty, final
I
thought
didn't.
before we move on?
Yeah, I didn't try any water in it, but I just, the alcohol percentage was mentioned. I don't know if there was a rationale for doing it at 48 versus 46, but I appreciate the higher alcohol.
Evan,
Yeah,
do you
agreed.
remember the story why?
I don't know why they do 48, but they do the same thing with quarter cask, which I quite like as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just they've just decided that is going to be the strength of the whiskey. So that's why they set it where it is.
I do
all
kind of
right.
wish they do the same thing with the 10-year-old, although you can get the 10-year-old cask strength here and there. So
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, it's a bit
Yeah.
more frustrating for some of us, I suppose, than others. So we're on to the Laphroaig 25-year 48.6%. I'm not going to show the photos for all of these because we don't have all of them on our website. Some of them have been out of stock since we transitioned to our new site, including this one, which was actually part of Kurt's collection. It is a 2016 bottling of Laphroaig 25 at 48.6%, matured in a mix of Oloroso sherry and ex-bourbon barrels, and bottled at 48.6%. All these have different ABVs, and the one thing I'm not entirely clear on is whether they're actually cask strength, because they don't have to declare that, or is this just a strength that they've decided to bottle their whiskeys at? And the reason I bring this up, in our tasting with Angus last week, he was quite critical of a lot of the industry that does this, where they will leave the whiskey at a strength that looks like it's probably cask strength because it's above 46, but they will tell you that they've diluted it to that. And oftentimes there's very basic reasons for why they do it. And the reason we got on this subject was that a lot of the whiskeys that he bottles are actually at what he feels is the best strength. So he plays around with his whiskeys to get them to the strength at which he wants them to bottle. What one of the dirty little secrets of the whiskey industry is that they might estimate that the strength of a batch of something is going to be X, and they print the labels. And if it's not that, then they'll actually add water to it at the last minute to get it to where it's supposed to be. And that can have a very deleterious effect on the liquid, which is going to take time to recover. Adding water to whiskey before bottling is like causing a shock to the liquid, and it can take time for that liquid to recover. You hear a lot of whiskey makers talk about this. I know I've chatted about this with Steve Lee at the Douglas in BC, where when he's diluting his whiskeys down, he does it very slowly over time. It takes up to 24 hours to dilute the whiskey down so that you don't shock it.
Mm-hmm. And the nose on this one is super interesting. Like it's got the fruit that I was expecting, but it's got these interesting savory and waxy notes to it as well, where it's like Crayola crayons, but it's also got like an old tomato soup, like concentrated tomato soup can in there.
Interesting.
Looking back at my tasting note that I wrote on this years and years ago, doughy, waxy, and fruity. So there you go, Evan. Some things.
Cool.
Mesquite barbecue sauce and baked apple pie.
Yeah. This was so this is in the old black label livery too, right? With the black box. This was before they switched to the white box, wasn't it?
This might actually be the first edition white box.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I think, Harmony, did you pour this tasting or did Sammy?
No, but it wasn't a white box. I didn't pour it.
It wasn't a white box, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Can we talk about those white boxes for a minute? I mean, the palette on this is lovely. I hate those white boxes.
Oh man, it is bad news when you feel like you're going to break the neck of a whiskey to try and get it in the box or out of the
or
box.
out. Either way,
Yeah.
like getting it in or out of the box is like dangerous.
Yeah.
And I mean, sturdiness wise, they're definitely an improvement on those flimsy black boxes that they put the whiskeys in before, but like,
Yeah, that were made out of balsa wood, it felt like.
yeah, black dyed balsa wood. But I mean, at least you weren't worried you were going to destroy the whiskey before you'd even got it out.
Yeah, I thought when I first opened one of those white boxes and tried to get the bottle out, I thought it was some sort of security feature. But it turns out it was just like poorly thought out more than anything else.
Harmony, did you give us any thoughts on the nose, or did you want to add any thoughts on the nose?
No, I love the nose. I find it like extremely tropical, and a nice kind of salty smoke. A little bit of minerality in there as well. Not so much picking up the savory, although like I understand why it's there and where it gets mixed in with the smoke note. But for me, it's just incredibly tropical, and I thought like waxy honeys.
Yeah, the tropical is a good call because I don't think that I went that direction when I was trying this a few years ago. But it's definitely fruity, and I think green mangoes. I've got a bit of melon in my original note on it. Part of it too is like how much this whiskey's been in bottle since 2016. So now we're starting to talk about bottle effect and like oxidizing in the bottle a little bit, maybe getting a bit softer, rounder, fruitier. Yeah, I think it's showing really well. Oh man. Marty, did you want to share any thoughts?
Sorry, just had my first sip there, but I'd say I like the apple pie note, but I'd say just a slightly singed apple pie. So.
Marty, I couldn't help but notice that I think you were chewing your whiskey there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that time that old Diageo guy yelled at you.
He gave me shit for that.
In the James Joyce pub, chewing your whiskey, and I'm kind of like, I mean, he was like this 74-year-old blender who was still traveling around to talk about whiskey, but the whole thing was a bit surreal. Like,
he used to be I think the distillery manager for Cragganmore, and he still had a very big soft spot for Cragganmore.
Yeah, and
have I met this guy? Because I think I know who you're talking about.
We had a visceral hatred of people chewing their whiskey. Marty, that must have been like 12 or 13 years ago, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a while ago.
So
back when Diageo paid attention to you.
Yeah, exactly. Back when we existed. So we were not just somewhere to pull a few cases of Don Julio, whatever. So
they just mistook you for a shareholder for a really long time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, First one's great, really quite mellowed, very fruity.
Yeah.
Nice finish on it. Quite a pretty dram. Not as malty as the Lore though. I mean, I think the thing that surprises me with the Lore is how much that like chewy barley tone from the Laphroaig is creeping into the whiskey. So good. All right. The next one I will share a photo of and the picture from our site, because this is one that we had until not too long ago. I believe this is now sold out, but the thing with Beam Suntory is we can never quite be sure. So you never want to take things down from the site too soon. But here you go. This is the 2019 edition of the 25 year, bottled at 51.4%. And they talk about bourbon and sherry casks as they often do. And that's about it. And doesn't look like I wrote up a tasting note for this one yet. So maybe we tried it at some point. Hard to say. I'm getting an unusual like rum-like tone from it on the nose right now. Not like the rum itself, but kind of the esters that you get from rum.
Probably like vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that vanilla. It's going back to the malt as well, where there's a lot of like barley grain and cracked grains and a little bit of burlap sack in there for me as well.
Yeah, I can see that. It's not as juicy or tropical as the 2016.
Yeah, the sherry tones on the 2016 are quite a lot more noticeable on the nose than they are on this one.
But there is something that reminds me of like Jamaican terroir rum on here. And we have no Duggan site to chime in on that. So the palate's more medicinal, more kind of classic Laphroaig, like what am I looking for? Like it's a friskier, somewhat more youthful palate than the 2016.
Yeah, it seems like oilier and a bit thinner, but not in a bad way for me than the 2016. Seems more bourbon influenced, where the 2016 you can really taste the diversity, as you said, Evan, in the casks. And definitely, yeah, way more medicinal and salty and smoky.
Yeah, that saltiness is definitely there.
Yeah.
Yeah, much
sorry, Marty,
much closer to a younger Laphroaig in the palate than the first one.
Yeah, Jamie Rodriguez saying it's possible that it's just bourbon. It could be, but I mean, refill sherry can often be really hard to pick, especially if it's American oak sherry. But James is pointing out that whiskey based, there's discussion sometimes about batches that have some sherry and others that are just American oak. I mean, the level of transparency on this stuff is not intense. And even that first 25, there's sherry there, but it's not like overt. Like it's pretty subtle and balanced. So it's hard to say, but there's definitely, it seems like this is more American oak regardless. And maybe it's American oak sherry refill.
Yeah, Jamie, I just nosed it and got like one singular raisin from the 2 scoops that go into Raisin Bran. So there must have been some sherry in there.
You know, as someone who loves Raisin Bran, it's really frustrating because you get to the bottom half of the bag and there's too many raisins. There's not enough bran anymore.
It's that paint shaker that they put it in to try and mix it all up, just drops them all to the bottom.
That's right. I just want to ask the question here, and I must be missing something. Maybe I'm too old, but in response to Jeff's comment, who the hell is Horst? Anyone else here? Am I the only one who doesn't know who Horst is?
No, I guess we're all too old, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a BC thing.
I definitely have not added whiskey.com. He does YouTube videos tasting whiskey. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even
Jeff,
watch,
we only drink our own Kool-Aid here. We don't check out other YouTube videos.
and I don't even watch our videos. Like, anyway. All right, let's move on to the next Laphroaig. We're on the 53.4 version here, which is the 2022. So this is the most recent. And I wonder if there's a bit of a trend here because this seems to be the most muted of the three to me. It's
Well,
like,
I hope the palette is bigger because the last 25 left
Yeah, the nose
like
is-
a really chemical kind of burn melting plastics that sort of note that the first two didn't leave. I'm hoping it's big enough to take that out and not let that dominate the rest of this lineup.
well, I'm definitely getting your melting plastics here, Harmony. That's still there on this one as well.
Yeah, this is the fried wiring in some sort of electronic gadget.
Yeah, it's the Loch Lomond edition of Laphroaig.
It's
Oh man, if only. Yeah.
a little bit of the with the rum side, a little bit of the dunder effect that you get in some rums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
it
getting
does have that. That it's like Dunderpit and black licorice Dutch licorice in the background there.
Oh yeah. It's more medicinal than the last one for sure.
It's still like it. I'm getting like a touch of pineapple juice in there too, along with it though. It's like you tried to mask the dead all that was in the drink.
Yeah. It's good. It just seems to me very one-dimensional, especially compared to like the first of the three Laphroaigs. And I don't know how fair a judge we can be of this, knowing that it's probably changed a little bit over time, like without kind of going back and forth on this to sort of.
After tasting it nose-wise, I get a little bit of saddle leather and just a touch of cinnamon on there as well.
Marty, have you chimed in on this one yet?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. I've got kind of a love-hate with it. There's some parts of the palette that I really love, but still it's not all hanging together yet for me. Maybe if it sits in the glass for a little while longer.
Harmony?
Yeah, the way it hits the nose and especially the palate is spikier, if that makes sense, where it kind of jabs at it instead of settling in.
Harmony, do you have any other thoughts on this one?
Not a lot of very nice thoughts at the moment, but I'm gonna add some water and see if it helps, because at the moment I don't feel like it can ruin it. It's not a bad whiskey. It's just I'm getting a lot of like burnt leather and like kind of that birthday sparkler after it's been ignited, notes.
Oh yeah.
A lot of that, like burning plastic and.
If I hear you correctly, Harmony, you're a little crestfallen.
Well, I think I'm just angry because I've been craving a cigarette for a few days now, and this is just like liquid cigarette, and don't need the temptation.
All right. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
this is the Nicorette bottling for you.
I do get more fruit on it and more vanillas with some water, and it takes that kind of that prickliness away, but I don't necessarily know if it's better.
go back to the
Jamie thinks better, but
Yeah, maybe it is.
go back to the lore now and knows it. It's like going into like, I don't know, if someone was maturing casks of whiskey in a damp, like West Coast rainforest. So you got like a mossy floor,
yeah,
like wet dungy oak notes coming through.
Mhm.
Yeah, you say that, and it almost comes off as, and it's been a while since I've had it, but the smoke and the peat on this reminds me of the Benria Curiositas ballings from years gone by. Right now on the Lore, where it's kind of like
I found those-
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I found those to just be a little bit more malt driven than this, but I get where you're going.
Lots of interesting questions and comments on here about how much of this is bottle aging. I think it's a very small amount. Like, I don't think you're going to get, after just 5 years, like a massive, or I guess in the case of the 2016, what is that now? Almost 9 years, a massive effect, but you're going to definitely get a bit of an effect. I honestly think the biggest explanation for these two is just cask selection, and maybe the quality of casks that they were able to pull together or use for this batch. It could be that it's just more ex-bourbon American oak focused and less refill sherry, whether that's European oak sherry or American oak sherry.
Yeah, the first of the 25s is so far my favorite.
Yeah.
The 2019 is starting to come around a bit more to me on it. It's starting to become a bit more fruity, but it's not quite as expressive. So I don't know, maybe a little time in the glass, maybe it'll evolve, maybe it'll open up just a little bit more.
I'm getting a little more like white chocolate on the 2019 now. Interesting. Yeah.
Jamie has a good tasting or a note on the Lore saying it's right now it's like really cheap chocolate Easter eggs. I'm gonna go further than that. It's like you're the kid that forgot to take the foil off and started chewing on them.
Ouch.
Yeah, the 2551.4 is getting a little bit better on the nose. Still pretty sort of like antiseptic driven in style. It's halfway between Tiger Balm and Vicks Vapor Rub right now. The palate's more subtle than the 2016, but I do like the palate more and more on that one.
Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to see if I can pull up any fun photos or good photos. They're taking forever to download from wherever they are.
Well, do you want me to show you a couple while you're doing that, or
No,
show a
I
couple?
mean, you can go ahead. Maybe it's just a nice little break before we move on to the Ian Hunter series. So what do you got for us, Evan?
So this is the Laphroaig floor maltings from when we were there. So I can't remember. It's not. I think it's maybe around 20% that the bottle of their capacity that they do with their own floor maltings at the maximum. I don't think it's more than that. Because Laphroaig, if I remember correctly, is the second largest production distillery by volume or annually, next to Kalila for Islay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Bessie again. This is their machine. So this is to show you that they're definitely not like Springbank. They have embraced modernization to some extent. So that's what they use to sort of turn the malt as it's steeping away there, or the barley.
None of the pitchforks?
Nope, none of the pitchforks.
I mean,
they probably keep one on the wall just for, there you go.
It's called a shield, to be clear here. It's a malt shield. But no, they don't use them as often anymore. They're less common. Evan, a lot of these look exactly like the photos I have. It's like we took the same photos.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we probably pulled our phones out at the same time. So this is in the kiln, or one of the kilns.
Evan. That's the guy.
Yeah, sorry about that. So there's a couple of my favorite photos from our trip, and this is one of them where this is a window in the kiln. And you can see some of the malt that wasn't taken away or didn't get fully malted, and there's actually some shoots of barley coming out, and you can see how like just cloudy these windows are at the same time.
We got to stick our heads inside.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
yeah, it was a fun place to visit, right in the midst of the kiln there.
Yeah. When we went years ago, 2004, I mean, they opened a door and you got to stick your head inside in the smoke. So I don't know if you can still do that, but it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, this was definitely one where it was no longer smoky. Like you could definitely smell it being in there, but
No,
they had cleared the barley in there, so
yeah, it was still going smoking when we were there.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a good tour guide.
Yes, and our tour guide was actually pretty good. So I don't know. It's just too bad you had one that was so bad, I guess.
Yeah. All right, guys, why don't we move on to the Ian Hunter trio, starting with the 33-year. These are all part of the Ian Hunter Story series, and see here, we're starting with the 33. So I will share my screen here. This is my first time giving these a try, so I'm actually kind of excited to see them. These whiskeys are all presented in what looks like a book, which I suppose would be a way to hide these from your partner if they were not into whiskey and you wanted to put them in your home and not draw attention to them. But 33-year-old, originally distilled in 1987, matured entirely in ex-bourbon, and 48.9%. And I'm glad I busted out like the good glass for this, because man, this is just, it's so gooey, tropical, jammy on the nose.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous nose. You get the mint and menthol coming off there, maybe a little bit of camphor, but super tropical in style. Tons of pineapple and mango.
I don't know if it's my glass. I'm not getting much in the way of smoke.
No.
It's reminding me a lot of that Single Malts of Scotland Clynelish 24-year-old that we had, that was just so intensely like sweet, like fruity, tropical, waxy.
Yeah, waxy for sure.
Yeah, lots of tropical fruit, but I wouldn't have guessed it was all bourbon off the nose.
Again, maybe it's my glass, but I don't know that I would have guessed that this was Laphroaig based on the nose.
No, I wouldn't. It doesn't have any smokiness to me, like a little bit of like kind of like that oaky smoke, but not peat.
Super interesting palate. Like it's almost got this lactic note, like this milkiness to it, texture wise.
Dulce de leche. Creamy.
Yeah.
Creamy, a bit oily, very thick on the palate.
Or even the
And kind of really lacking the medicinal tone.
It's still there. Like there's this, along with the tropical notes where they kind of hit on the finish. It goes again into mint and menthol and
yeah,
almost like a IPA, like with those tropical notes and that touch of bitterness that comes in as well.
This is just such a gorgeous example of like a mature, fruity, estery, tropical whiskey. And again, on the palate, I don't know that if you poured this for me, I would have been able to nail this as Laphroaig, because the smoke has mellowed so much.
But
That medicinal edge has been shaped.
Then 25.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the 30 or this one, but there was a Laphroaig that we had in probably about 6 or 7 years ago that was in its 30s, and it was like more muscular and more bold, like structure wise, than the 25s were. which was kind of shocking.
Mhm. It does start to get tarry on the finish. Like you start to see these tarry German salty licorice tones creeping in on the back end, clove. So that's that Laphroaig DNA starting to rear its head a bit more.
Yeah, big time fisherman's friends on this one as well, with that saltiness and just that sort of dead all menthol quality on the palate as well.
I'm going to share one of my photos for a second because it's come out well, and only because just like this is Islay on a sunny day, you know, after it's been raining, you know, ideally not during a drought, but after it's been raining for a while, like just green, blue, like it's just such a beautiful place when the weather's fine. I just noticed that I've continued to post the links to the whiskeys as we go here into the waiting room. So I'm guessing those didn't populate into the thread as we go, but most of these you should be able to find on our site or in the archive regardless. Harmony, any thoughts on this one before we move on to the 34?
No, I like it. I mean, it reminds me a little bit more of the 2016 on the nose and just with its fruity notes on the palate. But I feel like it has a better palate to it. It walks through all the flavors nicely, and it's not, and that the finish on my palate is more like juicy than like medicinal. So after not having sipped it for a while, I'm still tasting that kind of juicy, fruity quality within it. And I like it. It's a nice story.
Yeah. Yeah, this to me seems to be like the most, well, the first 25 was really good too, but this is such a well-rounded whiskey for its age too.
Jeff's asking if this has any parallels in the signatory unnamed Islay 1990 we have. Jeff, that's a good question. We haven't yet to try it though, because we poured it for the signatory tasting that's coming up, although we may be cracking one for our festival in Calgary on Thursday night. So may be able to answer that question for you in a day or so. But I'm sure there's some similarities there. I'm trying to think, like, if you look back at some of those Pete's Beast undisclosed Islays, like the 27 and possibly the 30. The 30 was a little bit like it. We're not sure if that was Kalila or Laphroaig, and I know there was a bit of a disagreement amongst the staff as to which distillery it actually was.
Yeah.
The
Portiskeag 28 as well.
That's a good call. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Port
Which has the big time tropical notes. This kind of falls like on one side. The Laphroaig 25 is stylistically is on the other side, and then kind of somewhere in the middle is the Portiskeag 28 to me.
So Jeff, I think we cracked one of those last year, but honestly, I don't remember. There's been a lot of whiskeys. It's hard to keep track of them all. All right. Yeah, and the sponge bottles as well too, one of which had Jackie Thompson from Ardbeg on it, but which was allegedly from Laphroaig. A little bit of a subterfuge there. All right, let's go on to the 34. So this is the Ian Hunter 34, book number 4. And what have we got here for this one here? It is, man, first fill or ex-bourbon, finished in first fill Oloroso sherry casks, only 300 bottles, 46.2%. At least on the distillery website, they were not declaring a vintage at the time. We can do some further digging and see if there was a vintage to it. But there you go. That's the link for it in the chat. And how is it?
Solid nose. Like, it definitely shows the sherry goes into some nice, like, tobacco box or cigar box or tobacco shed notes. Some leather, some super dry fruits in there.
Well, those tropical tones that you get in the 33 are there, but they're kind of under that note of sherry.
Yeah.
It makes me kind of wonder if this is possibly even like the same parcel,
Yeah,
but
just
in
finished.
sherry.
Mm.
Harmony?
It's beautiful. I'm really enjoying it, just nosing it. Definitely a fuller, more sherry profile than the rest that we've seen today.
Yeah, James says definitely darker in profile, but more fruit lying underneath. That there's a lot of fruit there, which is really cool. Even possibly because of the sherry cask influence, I don't know, but some again going into some licorice notes on the nose there. Just a touch of clove.
According to the website, this is a 1987 vintage as well. So
Cool.
it does beg the question, were these whiskeys from the same parcel and just some of it was finished in sherry? Yeah.
Like honey, lots of again honey in this, and that burnt orange rind, like sniffing the top of an old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah, even
coffee pudding, treacle sauce, a bit of vanilla ice cream in there too. But then you've got, it's like the sticky toffee was like infused with tropical fruits before you make it.
Yeah, it's going into, like you say, old fashioned, and it's very old fashioned-esque, even beyond the orange on the rim, where it's got that sort of sweet and bitter note to it that you get from like Carpano Antico vermouth or one of the better red vermouths in style.
Once more, I find like the Laphroaig DNA is pretty hard to like pull out right off the bat. Like, I mean, you can tell that there's something Islay-esque about the whiskey, but would I have picked this as being Laphroaig blind? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say the same. There's a bit of smoke there in the background, but it's really not a defining character.
Well, for me, it's more that it gets kind of tarry and creosote.
Tarry for sure. Yeah, like it's almost like it's not ex oloroso. It's a cask where they use railroad ties, old school railroad ties to make the cask itself, the staves.
But you really need to wait until the finish before you're able to actually pull up that some of those notes, because it's that the fruitiness of the spirit and then that introduction of that sherry note is really, for me, hiding some of those other tones before you can really pull them out.
Yeah, like is rusty a bad word? I mean, like maybe that's what you can get from tarry, but I get this like rusty, dry, kind of burnt minerality on the palate. Like that.
No, that's a good call. Yeah,
I don't think it's a bad note. I think that's a good note.
Yeah, that's half the notes on a Campbelltown malt, and Campbelltown's hot, so.
For me, I find it, in older sherried whiskeys, and I don't ever want to say it because it sounds so negative, and it's like that iron note, rusty nail, rusty penny, even blood. It's not even something you want to say, is something but that's sort of what I get from old sherry casks sometimes.
Well, you're touching on something that I've been thinking about with this one too, where like even though it was finished in an Oloroso cask, it doesn't seem like this hyper fresh, like fruit driven sherry cask. It's got those more, again, rustic notes of a sherry cask that's been aging something for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's like the fruit tones are kind of faded.
Yeah,
they're there, but they're
more leather than fruit over leather at this point.
Yeah.
Dave Smith saying he always gets a blood note from port cask, tastes like a copper penny. James saying darker in profile, more fruit lying underneath. And Jeff, going back in comments here, knowing that we opened a bottle of the previous vintage of the 1990, but doesn't remember much about it. I wish I did too. But as I said, we'll know more about the one we've got in a couple of days. In the meantime, let's roll over to the 30-year. Now, when we were talking about the lineup for this, obviously it made sense to pack the 25s together, and stylistically, I think that worked because they are quite similar but different, and they did sort of build in strength of peat as they went. And initially I was going to do the 30, 33, and 34 in that order as well. But there's just something about this 30-year. It is, Evan, you were talking about like tomato soup and stuff. Like this is lots of clamato and a whole bunch of other stuff going on here.
Yeah.
On the
It's
nose.
steeped leather tea right now for me, where it like there's these crazy black tea notes, but it's very leathery as well.
Mm.
I can see where you're going with the clamato too. There's something seafoody in there.
It's like a cigar, like or what is it? No, sorry, a tobacco snuff box or something too.
The snuff box is a good note. Yeah. I get just lots of apples. I know it says it in there, but like honey to me has been a theme in all of these, which is a pleasant surprise for me. I've not had a lot of Laphroaig in my life. No particular reason. I just haven't. And to me, that's a happy note to find that kind of honey and baked apples.
So this can't be like, I'm just looking at the description that we have on our site for this. I mean, at the end of the day, all we can do is pull off the internet, and in particular, I suppose the Laphroaig website, what they give us. But they're talking on here about it being from 3X bourbon barrels, and there's no mention of finishing.
Yeah. There has to be a wet berry cask.
You know what I
think?
think? You know what I think might have happened? I'm wondering if when this was set up, whoever set it up, whether it was myself or Kurt, whether we set it up as the book 1, which is from First Fill American White Oak Ex Bourbon, but it's actually book 2 that is.
Yeah, that could be.
So I think that, so the details on our site are not correct. This is Spanish Oloroso sherry. I'm going to guess based on some of the others that it is actually finish as opposed to full maturation, but I don't know that. I guess we'd have to dig further into that.
I find the tropical notes are coming off a bit more on the nose versus the last one for me. It's still really big sherry there as well, but.
So Dave Smith's pulled up their website. It says 30 years in Spanish sherry. So this is full term.
Wow.
Really?
Maturation.
It feels like like a nutty Band-Aid.
I just would have expected a little more spice and tannins for, that long in a Spanish oak.
No kidding.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they don't say whether it's first fill or refill. I mean, this could be a very active refill cask too. To me, it actually, the more I knows it, it's like Laphroaig and one of the Glenfarclas family casks had a baby. So,
well, that's a good call. Yeah, that explains the tea-like notes that I'm getting there.
Yeah, like you left the bag in too long, and the tea is cold.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and it's got this it reminds me of G&M, like old Gordon MacPhail casks too, where like you're trying something very old from a Gordon MacPhail cask where they have the really good sherry in there, and then it gets this combination of like sweet and bitter at the same time, because it's still mouth-watering. There's definitely some tannin there, but it's just, I love that bitter note when you get into older whiskeys like that.
I agree with you, Evan. It's that the bitterness to me is like the oak turns chocolate.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the malted. It's almost as if they use like a malted chocolate, like chocolate malt in the distillate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or this, or if you've ever had the bourbon cask coffee beans or anything like that.
Okay, I got to do that. Sounds
Where
great.
it's char on char and then the coffee as well.
I'm trying to do some sleuthing here because I have a theory about how this all came about. I'm wondering if the importers just reused the SKU for book 2 over top
would
of
make sense.
book 1, and to save themselves some money, and unless we pay close enough attention, we're not going to catch that either. And it's possible that this just slid under the radar as being, because I'm looking on here, Ian Hunter on Connect, they've got book 1, 3, and 4 listed, but they don't have book 2. I'm willing to bet that that's what happened. They just, even though the ABVs are different, they just brought it into the same SKU. Well, there's a surprise for you, and we have one of these in store. This is Laphroaig Ian Hunter 30 book 2, which we didn't think we have. We thought we had book 1. So
That's cool.
maybe a pleasant surprise.
The more I nose it, the more it reminds me of like heavily slathered barbecue ribs, where you put them on the barbecue and it's caramelized and charred the barbecue sauce as well.
That's almost Gordon MacPhail level sherry cask there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's flawless. There's no sulfur. It doesn't taste like speed seasoned sherry. That tastes like a rich old sherried whiskey. That's
Yeah, it's really well done, I think.
Yeah. All that said, it kind of, and maybe it's the peat playing with my tongue, but it's almost surprises me that it's not more thick and syrupy at the same time on the palate. Like it's not light, but it's not like as heavy as I would expect based on the nose as well.
Yeah, you got to be careful with a whiskey like that, because you're going to drink it a lot faster than you anticipate.
That's right. Yeah, there better be a book 3 after this, I guess.
Yeah, going back to the 34 and 33, they're so different.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, sherry finish versus sherry maturation.
Yeah.
Some of them taste like good white snow.
Caliber of the sherry cask too. You can really tell the difference. All right, so we go to the speed round now. And then I don't know, maybe we'll show a few more photos like this one, where I got creative with the use of reflections. And this is a pleasant surprise because I've probably not looked at this photo since I took it.
Nice.
Yeah, little pagoda roof reflected in a barrel top there. All right, so speed round. We're going to keep this a little tighter. I'm probably just going to go with Evan, Kurt, and Harmony on the, or Evan and Harmony on this one. So let's go back through, starting with the lore. How's the lore showing after this journey?
It's full on like your pencil crayon container with like all the crayons and markers that you haven't opened in a long time.
Pencil and crayons for sure.
Yeah,
Shavings and all. Almost goes into like a Loch Lomond-y cardboard note as well.
Evan, do any of your children insist on having pasta with no sauce?
Yes, actually. Yeah,
that's what this smells like to me right now. It's like pasta with no sauce.
that's super starchy. Yeah,
When my nephews, don't want anything on there, it's kind of gross. I mean,
this would be a pasta right up Isla's alley, where it's like no sauce, and then just like you give her the salt shaker and turn it away so she can just add buckets of salt to it.
Yeah, and not even butter.
Yeah. No, butter is disgusting. Just give me the salt.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're eating it on a paper plate at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Honeyed, malty, ashy, white fruits on the palate. It seems young compared to the 25. So But I mean, I guess it's replacing something in the 15 to 18 range. I would guess it's 13 to 14 years, somewhere in there, but probably not older than that.
But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
was, sorry, go ahead, Harmony.
I was gonna say mine has been in the glass now for about an hour 20. And it feels younger now than it did when I first poured it. And
Yeah.
and it's not just because we've had these older whiskeys. Like it truly just does feel like it's kind of fallen apart over time.
Mhm. I was gonna say, I think a lot of that is the older whiskeys. Like, I think this is a dram that I'm really happy we had it in the lineup, because I think I would be, if I didn't have older Laphroaig coming after it in the night, I think I'd be pretty happy to sip on this and just keep on going. Because it seems like to its benefit, it is nicely put together.
I just can't get over that like pasta with no sauce thing. I'm completely hung up on it. And
Yeah.
like Play-Doh, it's just
Yeah.
it's not jiving for me. All right.
Yeah.
First of the 25s, that 2016, how's that showing?
Still has that soup can note, like metal and all, for me.
It's like a soup can, but it's holding peaches with the concentrated juice, like syrup.
Yeah.
To me, like you've cracked
Mhm.
that can open.
I hate cheesy campfire songs, but I could sit around a campfire and drink this and sing cheesy campfire songs
Mhm.
and be quite happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's something therapeutic about this one to me. Like, it's just soothing, it's fruity. The saltiness, that tarry, faint smoke is kind of bigger now than it was before, but it's still really tame. And I just love how juicy and fruity it is.
Yeah. It's therapeutic because it's medicinal.
Mm.
Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that one, Kurt. That ends up being, well, I don't know. We gotta retaste the other two. I shouldn't say it's the rock star of the 25s because there's still 2 to go.
Well, no, we can't. We can say thank you for coming, everyone. That was really great.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the 2019.
2019, indeed. Again, like compared to the 2016, the nose is just very muted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more full on, like that mint menthol, eucalyptus, camphor. Like, you do get the smoke in there, and it's not quite acrid, but it's definitely on the medicinal side of things for me. Lots of dettol.
For me, the nose is disappointing, but the palate is lush, sweet, very fruity. Yeah, the palate's good. The nose is disappointing me. There's like almost nothing there.
Yeah, it's like lip smacking good. That guy would be yelling at me thinking I'm chewing it right now. I love the saltiness on my tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just to quickly pause on that for a second, like I remember sitting there with Marty and I almost wanted to be like, dude, it's his whiskey. What the hell do you care? Like, he's a customer of your company. Don't be such a dick. But anyway.
Yeah. That's Diageo chill filter, so you don't have to chew it.
Evan Kadanak, that was the guy's name. He was like an
I have not met him.
Distillery manager and blender. Anyway, hopefully he's still well. I mean, he was ancient when Marty and I sat with him, so hopefully he's still kicking around. How's the 2022 holding up?
Yeah, maybe he was mad just because Marty could still chew something.
Marty had all his teeth.
Yeah.
Maybe Marty was wearing the wrong football jersey that night.
Could have been.
This is like if someone was to make like a broth for mussels with like pears.
Yeah, it almost has Harmony, the the white wine and the oysters that we just had last week, like the combination of the two on there, where you get that
Totally.
green grassy note to it from the wine, plus the oysters in there as well.
Yeah, I was even gonna say it, like, it smells like the shells that Isla was
Yeah.
picking up on your
Yeah.
hands, and kind of like that, the low tide that's exposed. Yeah.
Mhm.
That is a 25-year-old for somebody who likes quarter cask. Like it is
Yeah.
very tarry, very medicinal. I don't dislike it, but I personally, I think would be a bit disappointed
Mhm.
by it for wanting what I would expect a 25-year-old mellow, mature Laphroaig 25 to be like.
Yeah, maybe it just needs 6 years of bottle age there. I wonder if that's what makes it 2016 so good.
People sell things like magnets, right? You just need a rotating magnet or something. And
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Don't spend your money on that stuff. It's probably all rubbish.
put it under. No, I think it's like you got to go the Summerhill route where you just put it under a pyramid.
Oh,
that's gonna-
purify it.
Yeah,
The magic of geometry to purify.
That's
wine.
right.
Have you done that tour, Evan? Have you been there?
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
I remember I did the tour, and this is going back. Like this is probably in the first couple of years I was at Kensington Wine Market. Trisha, who worked for us, her dad was the winemaker for Sandhill, and so I was out staying with Trisha, and we went to Sandhill, and she's like, "Hey, just for fun, let's go to Summerhill." And this woman picks me out of the crowd as part of the show on the tour to talk about the pyramid energy, and she pulls me aside for a second and says, just need to ask real quickly, do you believe in any of this stuff? And I was like, no, I think it's total bullshit. She's like, me too, but it's just part of our thing. So go along with me on it. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So yeah, it works.
Yeah, I remember going there, and like kudos to the winery Summerhill. Like they have, or at least going back 10 years, and I'm sure it hasn't changed. They have like literal bus loads of people that go on tours there. A lot of people from Asia, from what I could tell. And I feel like all they're doing is setting up people from China and Japan and Korea to go back and be like, oh man, those crazy Canadians. Like, I can't believe they believe in this stuff.
Either that or they're going back to like tell their cult mates that there's a place there that's found a way to harness the energies.
That's right.
So
yeah,
one or the other, maybe both.
yeah.
Yeah, those 325s are so different, and it would be tempting to say that the difference between them is bottle aging, but I don't think that's the case. They're just drastically different expressions. I think that oldest of them has been in bottle enough that there could be some serious bottle effect creeping in there, but yeah, who knows? Very cool. All right. And Evan, I don't know if you kept yours, but I just want to say, like, I actually busted out my Laphroaig.
Oh, cool.
Laphroaig glasses I could find tonight.
Yeah, mine is in a box somewhere. I think I seem to go for the same box from back there every time I pull out glasses for a tasting. So I probably it's probably collecting dust in one of those back there.
Yeah. Michael's saying the Sipes effect. Stephen has a different view of the planet. Many people do. I have a friend who thinks it's flat. So that's a thing. What are you going to do? He's still a nice guy. I just won't let him bring that subject matter up.
Just a little bit two-dimensional, sounds like.
Yeah, yes, exactly. All right, back to that 33, and man, that is still just gorgeous tropical fruit explosion all over the place.
Yeah,
it's going like cheesy and creamy now.
Oh, good call. Yeah, it has the opening of Bag of Hawkins in there right now, or Doritos, the cheesy Doritos as well.
So I'm kind of partly regretting using these glasses tonight, because I honestly wonder if I'm getting a very different, like narrower experience than maybe some of you guys are. I'm getting exactly the experience I want, but I don't know if it's like the most comparable one. But right now, it's reminding me of something from my childhood. My mom used to buy us these like high-end Easter eggs. I don't know where they were from, and they were about this big. And it was like fancy chocolate wrapped, not the cheap stuff, wrapped around like it was essentially like a Cadbury cream egg, but solid and made of better things. And I would like keep it in the fridge or the freezer, and I would slice off a piece of it to eat it at a time with a sharp knife. And this just reminds me of it on the nose. It's just so creamy and decadent and fruity.
Yeah.
And
I was
chocolate.
gonna say, like, well, your flat earther friend there is definitely two-dimensional. This is allowing you to nose in 4 dimensions with the blender's glass. So
Possibly even 5. I mean, let's
yeah. There's the 33-year-old right now. It reminds me of like black olives and brine right now too. Like it's got like that slightly stinky, funky note to it, but in a good way.
I'm glad we don't have any more of that, because I think I might be tempted to buy one, which would be stupid.
Oh, that's brutal. I literally just couldn't remember and scan the bottle to see if we could buy more because I really liked it.
Oh, but Harmony, it's $2,500. So
Yeah.
I guess I worked for free for a few months.
That's right. That's right. Back to indentured servitude.
Yeah.
All right. The speed round really slowed down. We kind of got stuck in a rut there. What's funny now going on to the 34 is it seems flatter than when we went by it the first time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I think that's the 30-year-old in effect there, where you're going from like this cask finish seems so multi-dimensional and so well done on its own, and then you go back to the 30 after that, and it's just like, oh, this is actual full maturation sherry.
Mhm. Kind of ho-hum. I mean, to me, I suppose there's always room for disagreement on this, but it's not as beautiful and enticing as the 33, and the sherry's falling far flat of the 34.
This reminds me
Or the
now of
30.
like the burnt ends at Hayden Block.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the 30 is like burnt toffee and also those Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, the 30 just makes me wish G&M had more old aging Laphroaig available.
Harmony, that is such a good strategy for getting out of a tasting early. It's amazing. I love it.
It's
Well
mine.
done.
Echo dibs. I copyright that. Excuse. No, my little battery keeps popping up with little timers, and it's
Oh.
like 6% remaining, 6 minutes,
All right. Harmony's only got 6 minutes.
which is
That's
okay.
right.
It's not
Well,
about
Harmony
me.
has it hard out is what they call that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to the 30, the last one.
And I like Laphroaig and ex-bourbon and refill so much, but that is really good sherry.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Agreed. All right, Evan, do you want to fire up the poll?
Yeah.
The poll of polls. So you're going to get a chance to vote for, is it both or just the first favorite? Do we have to do it twice?
First and second favorite.
Okay, polls up. You get a chance to vote now. Marty, you won't get a chance to vote because you're a co-host unless we unco-host you.
Could unco-host.
Then I got to relaunch the poll. Marty, why don't you unmute and just tell us what your favorites are?
Yeah, starting with Marty. Marty, I kind of feel like you're joining us from like an elaborate tent or yurt in the field
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah,
And you're
he's
so
actually gone Bedouin
Oh, there we
since
are.
we've last seen him.
So Debbie's here with me. She had her own tasting. She's complaining that she did not get a vote because we're both on the same.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Well,
you
Debbie
can
can
log in.
vote too.
What's your vote,
Too
Debbie?
late for Debbie to log in from her phone?
Well, no. I vote for 33 and then 34.
Okay,
Yeah, nice.
For me, the 33 is the clear winner, but then I'd take the first 25. But
Yep.
I mean, there's none of these I would turn down. A yurt, yes.
but if you had to turn one, you know.
That's tough. I mean, the Lore is a nice starting point, but it doesn't have the depth of the others.
It's pasta with no
There.
sauce, Marty.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Marty. Thanks, Debbie.
Mhm.
Harmony, you're up.
But she's
First
still
and
there.
second, if you have time.
Yeah, well, I mean, to just be a yes man, I guess the 33 just really stood out for me, and it looks like the polls agree as well. The 33 was fantastic, and it's a toss between 30 and the first 25 for me as well.
Mhm.
Birthday boy, Evan.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the 30 is my top, even though I'm not that big into sherry typically. I thought that was so well done. Followed up by the 33. 33 is great. If it wasn't for the 30 being there, I probably would pick the 34 as well. I just think the extra depth that the 30 gives it with the full maturation just kind of puts it over the top.
Mm.
And I hope you appreciated that we managed to sneak in there the fact that it's your birthday. So
Yeah.
and here you are
Thank you.
amongst friends having drams.
Mhm.
Did you guys drink anything exciting at work today for your birthday?
No, but there's a Rye Distillery that distiller that stopped by that I'll have to chat with you about tomorrow.
Awesome.
There you go. That sounds exciting.
Happy birthday. I was dropping little hints about it. I'm like, I'm not gonna be there, guys. There's a birthday list on this board.
Well, Evan's wife dropped off donuts, so that was a
Yeah.
treat.
Very
I
cool.
was trying not to make a big deal out of it because I've been a terrible manager and missed a few birthdays of our staff, so
I
probably didn't need to be brought up.
I try for mine to not go observed as much as possible.
Mhm.
Usually
Yeah, well, around Robbie Burns Day, it's hard to ignore.
it's really admittedly. So my favorite in the lineup is definitely that 33. I think it's gorgeous. And I really like that first Laphroaig 25, but I think the 30-year straight sherry maturation's got to be my number two. Such a tough call. And looking at the polls, I'm sure people might have seen, it looks like the 33 won round one, the 30 came in number two, and round two, the 30
Okay.
finished first, and the 33 tied with the second 25-year-old for third place. And Lore got a vote. How about that?
Yeah.
There
Did you
are
notice
people
that
there.
the third 25-year got 0 votes overall?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
It performed under the Lore. That's something that's
Yep.
impressive.
They got to change the 25 to NAS. Obviously, that's the only way to go.
It's obviously kind of sad. I have to say though, like objectively, even that third 25 is far more interesting than the Lore.
Yep.
But the Lore is swimming in a deep pool here, and it's wearing like water wings. And yeah, I think it's great that there are people out there who do like. I mean, obviously there are. Evan, you've got Islay. I've got Gunnar and Magnus. They both like to have pasta with no sauce. So you need something for everybody out there.
Yeah, and I think that with the Lore, there's definitely the deep pool that it was swimming in. That's an issue there because I was actually, maybe it's because I've just gotten acclimated to Islay having pasta with no sauce and stopped trying to fight it, which was an issue for a long time that Dad had to get over. But I think again, if you were taking the Lore on its own, and not in a lineup like this, it'd be a pretty pleasant dram to spend the night with.
Yeah, no, that is fair. And yeah, Michael, as Michael's saying, the lore isn't 4 figures, or high 3 figures, I suppose you could add to that too. But Evan, we could file this under the many t-shirt ideas we've come up with but never executed. Laphroaig Lore is like a 25, or Laphroaig Lore is to 25 as, pasta is, or is like pasta with no sauce, something like that. You get the idea.
Yeah.
There's a t-shirt idea in there is the bottom.
That's right.
So
yeah. Bottom line is we're just waiting for an AI that can execute, and then we'll finally get t-shirts printed up. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was a fun range tonight. We kind of got through them at a reasonable clip. Before we wrap here, guys, do you, Harmony, Evan, or even Marty, do you guys have anything you want to add before we wind her down?
Well, I got to say this was a fun way to avoid my my family and my children, and enjoy a bit of birthday time. Hopefully they're not listening to this later on in life. I love you guys, but yeah, good way to turn 43.
Hopefully, your noise canceling earphones phones are also canceling what they can hear.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I love you, Kate, if you're listening.
We'd sing you happy birthday, but that would be kind of weird over Zoom.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sure
but
the
nevertheless,
timing would be off, and so would the vocals with this much whiskey in our system. So
well, we all saw what happened when Gal Gadot tried to get everybody to sing together. It just didn't. It didn't go well. So let's not try that.
It's Kensington Wine Market. We definitely don't hire for singing voice when it comes down to it as well. So,
which is not to say that I'm not willing to sing. It's just that you don't want to hear it. So there's a big difference. Well, happy birthday, Evan. Everybody, thank you for taking part in tonight's tasting. Thank you for indulging us in our ideas to open some fun bottles and then sit behind a screen or look at a screen and engage with us on it. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know Barry and his friends aren't paying attention, but that's okay. They're enjoying their whiskeys and they're having a good time. I don't even think you caught that little joke there. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is our last virtual tasting, I think, until July. Is that right?
Yeah. We've got quite a lineup coming up for July, though. So take a look if you haven't already.
Yeah, and actually, if I was going to throw one little tidbit out there for those of you who weren't at Ardbeg Day in Calgary on Saturday, maybe keep an eye on your email inbox tomorrow morning because there'll be a notice going out. Thanks everyone for taking part. Thanks Harmony, whose computer has obviously died now. Marty and Debbie, thanks for joining us. Evan, happy birthday, everyone. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.